Hello and welcome back to my channel. I really hope you are all well, and I hope you're as happy that we're finally in April that I am. I think we can really feel the sap starting to rise. You can see the growth on the trees and the bushes, and it just has that exciting feeling of the season is ready to just explode and get going. And also I'm very excited because we finally have a polytunnel on the farm. So come on, let me go and give you the tour. Right, so I'll start with the details of it. We have gone for a 52 foot in length by 18 foot wide tunnel. The reason that we went for this size is, being completely honest with you, it was the size of the most level piece of ground in the garden. Like, we could have went a lot bigger, but we were trying to avoid having to do too much groundworks. Now, you probably have seen in my previous videos that we had initially thought about putting it on the other side of the garden near the stream, but that would have required a lot of groundwork, and like we would have had to, you know, properly like dig down into the ground and then level out, and it was just more work than we wanted to do. So the natural and the easiest thing to do was to put it on this side of the garden, and we had a length of about 52 foot before it started to slope. Now, we did think initially of going maybe 40 foot, but we said, look, if we have the money and we have the space, let's go as big as we can. So we went with the 52 foot, and then the 18 foot was as wide as it would come. After that, you're going into commercial grade polytunnels apparently, which is what the company told us, which I don't know like the full differences, but I would imagine the price would have went a lot more expensive. So we kind of thought for ourselves 52 foot by 18 foot is plenty big. The polytunnel we were using previously was, I think, about 33 foot by 14 foot, so like considerably more space in this one. And for what I wanted for what we wanted for initially anyway, this would be more than big enough. So it's 52 foot by 18 foot. It has 9 hoops, and we have a double door either end, and in the door we have netting to allow for airflow down the bottom, which is very, very important, because with the heat in here you need to have fresh air going through it even when the doors are closed on a bad day, because things can, you know, fester, and you just need to keep the air circulation fresh because it's better for your plants. So initially we had said we were going to get it and we were going to put it up ourselves. We put the last polytunnel up. It is a big job, it's a hard job, it's tedious, but paying for the installation generally puts an awful lot of extra onto the price. I mean, if you have been following me with the saga with the garden shed, you'll know they wanted 550 euros to assemble a 10 foot by 12 foot shed, which none I hope they were getting. So when we initially were going to get this tunnel and we were pricing, we had said, right, okay, we're going to put it up ourselves to save on the expense, because it meant the money we were saving on installing it ourselves we could put towards getting the bigger size. However, when we went to see the company, we went actually with Polytunnels direct. We got the 2 previous tunnels incaled off them. We've always found their tunnels excellent quality. They're a very nice company to deal with. Their customer service is excellent, and the quality of the polytunnels is excellent. Like, the 2 that we have incaled are still perfect. So we decided to go with them again. Went down to they have like a showroom. Well, I say showroom, it's at the back of the premises in Navan, that you can go look at their different sizes and styles of polytunnels. They also do the polycarbonate ones. So I went down and had a chat with them, explained the situation, that I would have liked to have gotten it put up because of where we're getting it put up, but obviously with the price and stuff I thought it was out of reach. So we bit of back and forth and agreed on a price where they would put it up. And actually they were really good, because they only charged us 400 euro to get it installed, which to me was like money well spent, because it took 3 fellas 5 hours to put it up. So if we had been doing that ourselves, like, we'd be here for months and it still wouldn't be up. But the biggest thing for me about getting it installed by the professionals was that it will last, because we're up on a bit of an elevated site here. It's on a slope, very strong winds, because we've moved slightly more northerly, and the winds here, like, we had 50 km/h winds during the week, and I just was nervous. I was nervous about spending the money on the tunnel and not spending the extra to get it put up properly, and then if that hadn't happened, we'd be absolutely killing each other because you'd be like, you didn't do this properly, or we didn't do that properly. So I just had to spend the money. So anyway, thankfully the company was quite reasonable. Now I did, because of the size of the tunnel, shop around, and I priced other places and they were still the most reasonable, so that's why we went with them. So we got it professionally installed. So I took a few videos of them putting it up yesterday. I didn't take loads because I didn't want to be in their faces, and I didn't want to be like, oh, can you just move out of the way so I can film that while you're doing it. So I kind of filmed a few bits from afar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the features of the polytunnel, and I'll put in a few clips of them actually putting the polytunnel up so you can see it at the different stages. But the point of this video is not so much as to tell you how to put up a polytunnel, it's to tell you about the features and what I like in polytunnels, what I don't like, and why things are done certain ways, so that it's like you can have a look at it if you're thinking about getting one. Because I know a lot of people have messaged me on Instagram to say, oh, I'd love a polytunnel but I'm not sure, or where you're getting yours from, because they are, like, there's no getting away from it, they are expensive, but they are so well worth it. I mean, if you have the means and you have the space to get one, I'd recommend it to anybody, even if you don't grow it. And they're just a great outdoor space to have, a covered outdoor space to have. So I'm going to go now and kind of talk you through the whole thing and show you. Right, so polytunnels, they're basically the hoops with the polythene put over it, secured at the bottom. Now, there's two main ways to secure them at the bottom. There is a base rail system, which is what I went for, and there is a trench system. I've watched videos and I've seen the trench system, which is basically they bury the plastic, right? They dig down about a foot into the ground, they put the plastic down, and they kind of bring it back up in a U, and they fill like the bottom of the U with all the muck, cover it over, cover it in, and it's buried into the ground. Well, first of all, I don't think the company that I got mine from does it that way. I would imagine it's very, very labour intensive, because if you think like this is 52 foot long, you're digging 1 foot deep 52 foot long trenches plus the 1 foot deep 18-foot trenches either end. That is a lot of manpower. And I know from here yesterday when they were driving the bars into the ground, they said that like once they got past maybe a foot deep, it went to like boulder. So you can imagine what it would be like trying to dig that out. Some places I think would possibly bring in a mini digger rather than have people dig it by hand. But I just wasn't and wouldn't have been comfortable having the trench system here when we have such high winds. I'm sure it works fine in places, but just for myself, for my peace of mind, I didn't want a trench system. I wanted to go with the base rail system. It's what we've had in the other two polytunnels, and it's kind of a case of if it's not broke, don't fix it. So how does the base rail system work? So the base rail system is actually, it's the first part of the polytunnel that they put down. They put down the wood, they measure it out, and that gives you like your footprint of the polytunnel. Then they go along with their bars, they measure out equal distances between the bars. I think the guy, I overheard him say, was 1.6 meters between them. I'm not sure, but obviously that's dependent on the size of your tunnel. So what they do is they get a bar. Hold on, I got it. Okay, so they actually left some spare bits behind them. So this is what they were using. This is the wood that they use for the base rail system. It's probably like 4 inch by 2 inch or something. I would imagine it's some sort of pressure treated as well to stop it from rotting. This is the bars that they drive down into the ground. So one of the guys, when they came, after they put down the wood and they marked the spots where they needed to put the bars in, one of the guys came along with a sledge. He drove these bars straight into the ground. He put a thing over the top to protect the edges. He drove them into the ground, and the other guys went around and sat these hoops down. I don't know if it goes into it or over it, but this is like the anchor in the ground for each of the hoops that they sit into. So once they had that, then they moved on to the next section, which is the roof, and I'll show you that now. Okay, I can't reach up there, so I'm going to use this piece of wood to point. So basically you can see the two hoops come in, they join in the middle, and they slot into each other. Then they put up these things which are called ridge bars. So these help keep the hoops joined together, but also they go from the full length of the tunnel and they stop it collapsing in on itself. So what they've done is the two hoops join together, and then they put these like U-shaped bolts. They catch them over the bars on either side, and they bring it down, and it sits into this bracket that goes around the ridge bar. So it's just securing the whole thing together, that it's really, really tight. And it just gives that, like, just brings the whole structure together and gives it the added strength. Now, these are crop bars. You don't have to have crop bars. You can have a polytunnel without crop bars. But the reason that you get them, and they are an added extra expense, is that you can hang string or wire or whatever sort of support structure that you want to put in place in your polytunnel to tie your plants off to. So these, like, I'll be running wires along these and then strings down to support the tomato plants. So they're basically just to help you support your plants. You don't have to have them. Some people like to hang hanging baskets from them. My plan is that I will have maybe, I don't know exactly what yet, but maybe something like gutters running along, and in the gutters I'll plant strawberries so they're all hanging down and they're away from the slugs. So you can use the crop bars in a load of different ways, but they are an extra. You don't have to have them. Lastly, they put on these bars. Again, this is support. It's just to stop the end falling in on itself. The reason being is the double door on the ends are very, very heavy, so they just need a little bit of support to make sure that they stay in place. And again, you can use this for running wires, supporting plants. Things like this actually come in handier than you will realise. So at this stage now, they've got the whole frame up, they've got all of the hoops up, they're anchored into the ground, they've got the ridge bars up, they've got the crop bars up. So what happens next is, while somebody puts all of the hotspot tape on the bars, the two other lads were starting to install the doors. So I'll talk you through hotspot tape now. So this is hotspot tape. It's sticky on one side, not on the other side. And the idea is that you need to have this anywhere where the polythene is going to come in contact with the metal. So be it the metal bars, the hoops going across, be it, like you can see up here where the bolts and stuff are on the ridge bars, or the brackets that are holding the door on, you have to have this hotspot tape, because when it heats up in here, the bars naturally heat up with them being in contact with the plastic. That can degrade the plastic quite quickly. So it's a preventative from your plastic getting damaged, basically. This is it. It's not very thick. It's just kind of foamy, but very, very important. So make sure if you are ever getting a polytunnel, or you're putting it up yourself, that you put this anywhere that the metal comes in contact with the plastic, because your plastic won't last without it. So once they had all the bars in place, the base rail system in place, the doors up, the hotspot tape on, it was time to put on the polythene. Now, this is the bit where I was nervous as well if we did it ourselves. I know in Kells we got it tight, but we probably could have got it a little bit tighter. And I think it's one of those things that you're just afraid if you put too much pressure on it, you're going to rip it, you're going to destroy it. But like, them lads were swinging out of it yesterday. They had no fear. And as a result, you've got that kind of like tight as a drum sound. And he said that's what you want. When you put your polythene up, you want that. Because he said a flappy polytunnel will not last. He said that's how you lose your polytunnel. That's how your plastic rips. So you need to get it tight. So what they did was they put the polythene over completely, got it level where they wanted either side, and one fella gathered it down the far end and he held it like with his full weight, while the other two pulled it here, and they drilled it in above the door. Now they obviously, when it came down over, they kind of cut the section for the door up and then rolled that, tightened it to a piece of wood and drilled that into the frame. So they did one end, then they went down and did the other end, and then they did the sides. And I'm going to come out now and I'm going to show you outside how the plastic is connected to the base rail to keep it in place. So you'll notice down along the bottom here, we've lots of different sections of wood that's screwed in. So what they did was they went along, and each place where there's a bar, you can actually see the hotspot tape really well through here, but each place that there's a bar, they did a little nip in the plastic, and then what they did was they took that section of plastic between the two cuts, between the two bars, and rolled up in like this 2x1, and they rolled and they pulled it down, and they rolled it and they pulled it down some more, and then they took screws and they drove them in so that the plastic wrapped around the wood was drilled into the base rail wood on the inside, and that's what keeps the plastic down and keeps it tight by doing it in sections. I just realised I've been saying that they got the doors up before they put the plastic on. They actually didn't. They put the frame up. They put the doors on once all the plastic was done. So when it came to the ends, right, they did the same idea. They nipped the plastic, they wrapped it around the 2x1, they folded it down, they tightened it, they drilled it into the base rail. But when it came to here, to go around the frame of the door, they'd take a little bit at a time and bring it here and fold it in, so it kind of like has these pleats, and they'd staple it to the inside of this piece of wood, and they went all the way down, pulling it as tight as they could, stapling it. Then on the inside, when they had that all done, they come in with again another piece of 2x1, and on top of the plastic that's all stapled in, they put the 2x1 and they drove these screws in, so it's like the 2x1 just keeps all the staples in place, stops them from popping out. And then they went along with a Stanley knife and they cut off the excess of the polythene, and that was repeated obviously on the other end until it was done. So once they were happy with the plastic, it was all in place, they did one final job on securing the hoops to the base rail to keep everything together, and I will show you that now. So the last thing they did then to keep everything in place was that they put a screw from here, drove it through the two bars. So this is for the hoop that's going down and the anchor bar that's coming up. They drove a screw through the two of them to secure them together, and then they put on these bolts. So on the outside, these are a big wide headed bolt, because the larger the surface area of the bolt, the more it'll pull in the wood. Came through into these brackets similar to what was up on the ridge bars and bolted them in. So you've got the anchor bar and the hoop joined together. You've got the plastic and the 2x1 on the outside getting bolted to the bar through this base rail wood on the inside, so it keeps it all really secure and hopefully safe when we get really strong winds. So I think that's about everything that I can tell you about the polytunnel, about the construction, about why they put it up, about why I prefer a base rail system over the trench system. Apparently with a polytunnel that goes this big, they have to have double doors anyway, something to do with the structure. But I wanted to have the double doors because it's just easier for getting bits in and out, and as well it's easier for ventilating it during the summer when it gets very warm. So that's why we went with the double door. And as I said already, we had the netting at the bottom. It's really nice to have that, so that even on a day that you have the doors closed, there's still fresh air coming in and out. That's as far as I've gotten with the plans, to be honest with you. I really didn't think that we'd get a tunnel up this year. I just thought, like, with money and time constraints and that sort of thing, just wouldn't happen. But thankfully a few things came together and it did, and I'm really delighted to have it. Actually, I'm not gonna lie, I was really missing having a polytunnel to stroll out in and sit down in and have a coffee or a glass of vino in. And I started kind of very few seedlings this year because I didn't think I'd have a tunnel. So I hadn't started much, but now I'm like, okay, I've got scope. I need to go crazy sowing seeds, but I don't really, because again, we don't have any beds down. We brought some kind of bits of wood down last night to try get a rough idea of what we might do with the layout, but I don't really want to rush into it. I want to take time to think about it. And the same with our last tunnel, like, as much as I have it for growing space and I love it, I also want it as like a bit of an outdoor kind of social area. So down the back end, I'm still going to have the couch, I'm still going to have the seating area so you can sit down and relax and, you know, have a few drinks, have a chat, even just come out and have a nap. And I also want to make like a really nice potting station. I want to have somewhere that's really like really well organized for my seed trays, because I do have a tendency, like in the madness of the seed sowing like season, to just throw stuff everywhere and it gets very messy. So I want to work on something that's like very practical, in that it's good for storage seed trays, it's good for, you're not bending over, you know, when you're potting up or you're sowing seeds, that you're going to save your back. So I wanted to be practical, fashionable as well as functional, because obviously I wanted to look nice as well, because it's nice to have this area looking nice. We're going to have all the lemon trees. I'm really excited to plant the grapevines directly into the ground, the passion fruit into the ground. So I think down this end towards the house is going to be like the business end, the growing end, because we were figuring it out yesterday. Like this is like south facing, so this will get the most sun, so it makes sense to put all the plants down this end. Then down here can be the potting area and the seating area. So after that, not too sure the layout of the beds, not too sure will we get it done. I don't even know where I'm going to get the compost from yet to fill the beds, but at least I have the ground to plant straight into now. So it's very exciting, lots of planning to be done. It means we can move all the bits and pieces from the other polytunnel and kells now because we've somewhere to put them. So yeah, so it's all go. It's very, very exciting. And again, I understand that the whole polytunnel thing is very, very niche. So if you've taken the time to watch the video, I really appreciate it. And I hope you get something out of it. And I hope that I've answered your questions. If you're thinking about getting a polytunnel, as always, drop any questions you have in the comment section. I'm happy to help. You can follow me on Instagram as well. You can send me question over there. It's at SheSowSeeds. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe so you can follow along with everything that we do. And thanks for watching, and mind yourself, and I'll see you soon.